Did you know you've got over 100 things sitting in your trash right this second that can be turned into absolute garden gold? Seriously, we're not just talking about regular waste disposal today. We're talking about the literal alchemy of creating black gold right in your own backyard. If you've ever wanted to slash your household waste while creating the ultimate nutrient-rich soil for your plants, you are exactly in the right place. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're putting together the ultimate evergreen rulebook for safe, effective composting, pulling from the absolute latest agricultural science and expert gardening practices. Whether you're totally new to this or you're just trying to troubleshoot a stubborn pile, this is going to give you the actionable insights you need to succeed for years to come. Here is how we're breaking it down today. We'll start with the magic of black gold, look at balancing your greens and browns, go over the strict no list, tackle some tricky gray area items, uncover hidden contaminants, and wrap up with safety and testing. Let's get right into it. Section 1, the magic of black gold, replicating nature's ultimate recycling system in your backyard. Okay, so why do we even bother with this process? Well, the main thing to remember is that we are really just controlling and speeding up a perfectly natural process of decay. Out in the wild, leaves fall to the forest floor and slowly turn into humus over years. In our backyards, we're actively setting up the perfect VIP environment for bacteria and fungi to thrive by perfectly balancing oxygen and moisture. The result? We transform everyday organic trash into this dark, crumbly, earthy-smelling mix that is basically an unparalleled superfood for your garden. Section 2. Greens, browns, and balance. The recipe for perfect decomposition. You know, building a compost pile is honestly exactly like baking a cake. You absolutely need the right ratio of wet and dry ingredients. These are the two fundamental pillars of your pile. Greens, which are your energy source, and browns, which provide structure. Greens give you nitrogen. They're fresh, wet, soft, and break down super fast to fuel those microorganisms so they can multiply and generate heat. Browns, on the other hand, are your carbon source. They're dry, woody, and hard. They take way longer to break down, but you literally have to have them because they create air pockets and bulk so your pile doesn't just suffocate. So, what does this actually look like in your house right now? For greens, think of veggie scraps from last night's dinner, fresh grass clippings, young weeds, as long as they haven't gone to seed, and coffee grounds. For your browns, you want to grab dry autumn leaves, straw, small twigs, ideally cut down to under 5 or 10 centimeters, and torn up unprinted cardboard or paper. Now, to avoid ending up with a slimy, smelly nightmare of a pile, you've got to aim for the golden ratio, which is 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen by weight. I know, that sounds like a lot of math, but in everyday practical terms, because browns are so much lighter and fluffier, it basically means dumping in about 4 parts of brown material by volume for every 1 part of green. Hit that sweet spot and your pile is going to break down beautifully and smell exactly like a fresh forest floor. Section 3, the strict no list. What will absolutely ruin your compost pile? All right, let's establish some firm boundaries here. There are some things that absolutely must stay out of your bin. Meat, fish, bones, and dairy, huge red flags. Seriously, unless you're actively trying to host a neighborhood raccoon buffet, skip those. Diseased plants, like anything with tomato blight or powdery mildew, also need to stay out because a standard home pile just doesn't get hot enough to kill off those pathogens. Glossy paper and treated sawdust, they're full of toxic plastics and heavy metals like arsenic that won't break down and will literally poison your soil. And don't even think about coal ash or synthetic fertilizers. They have incredibly high levels of inorganic elements that will completely wipe out all those beneficial microbes working so hard for you. And this brings us to a super important contrast regarding animal waste. Droppings from herbivores, think rabbits, horses, or hamsters, are phenomenal for your pile. They act as a massive nitrogen-rich activator. But carnivore waste, that is a total no-go. The agricultural guidelines are crystal clear on this. Never, ever put dog or cat waste in compost you plan to use on a vegetable garden. Their waste carries dangerous parasites and diseases that can easily survive the composting process and transfer right back to you. Processing carnivore waste takes highly specialized, entirely separate systems, so just leave it out of your backyard setup entirely. Section 4. Tricky items to handle carefully. The gray area of composting. Okay, now that we know the strict rules, let's explore the gray area. Stuff you can compost, but only if you know the secret techniques. Take untreated wood ash, for example. It's packed with calcium and potassium, but it is insanely alkaline. If your pile's pH spikes over 8.0, biological activity just stops, and your precious nitrogen turns into ammonia gas and literally evaporates. The fix? Keep ash under 5% of your pile's total volume, sprinkle it in very thin layers, and keep it dry. What about walnut leaves? Well, they contain juglone, which is a natural herbicide that will stunt your other plants, like tomatoes. To compost them safely, you have to chop them super fine, mix 1 part leaves to 3 parts neutral organic matter, and let the pile age for at least a year so the toxin fully degrades. And finally, citrus and onions. Their high acidity can seriously irritate or even kill beneficial worms. So use them really sparingly in an outdoor pile and avoid them completely if you're running a specialized indoor worm bin. Section 5. Hidden toxins and contaminants. The invisible threats hiding in plain sight. This part is wild. We really need to talk about the terrifying hidden contaminants sneaking into our gardens disguised as harmless organic waste. It is incredibly ironic that things we assume are natural are actually laced with synthetics. Like tea bags and coffee filters, a lot of them contain hidden nylon fibers that shed microplastics right into your pristine soil. And those annoying little produce stickers on your apples, they're vinyl. They are cited as one of the biggest sources of compost contamination, and they will literally never biodegrade. Vacuum dust might seem compostable, but it's actually packed with synthetic carpet fibers. And perhaps the most deceptive of all, those cups labeled compostable bioplastics like PLA, they require sustained temperatures of 55 degrees Celsius or about 131 degrees Fahrenheit in an industrial facility to break down. Toss that in your backyard pile and it'll just sit there forever, breaking into microplastics. But the absolute most dangerous invisible threat facing composters right now is a class of persistent herbicides like aminopyrrolid. These are super resilient chemicals designed to kill broadleaf weeds in pastures, and the crazy part is they stubbornly survive the entire composting process. Let's trace how this happens because it's an absolutely fascinating and kind of terrifying journey of bioconcentration. Day 1, a farmer sprays a pasture with this herbicide. By week 4, livestock eat that treated hay. The chemical actually passes completely unscathed through a cow or horse's complex digestive tract. By month 3, a well-meaning gardener buys that manure and adds it to their pile. But here's the real kicker. Because a compost pile shrinks in volume as it breaks down, the herbicide actually concentrates. By month 6, that finished compost goes on a garden bed. And by month 7, highly sensitive crops like tomatoes or beans are decimated. They get twisted stems, cupped leaves, and die at a toxicity level of just 1 to 10 parts per billion. Insane, right? Section 6. Safety, testing, and disclaimers. Protecting your health and your harvest. Because we're dealing with organic decay, invisible chemicals, and potential pathogens, we really have to wrap up with some essential safety protocols. So here's our critical safety disclaimer. Always wear PPE, like a mask and gloves, when handling fine wood ash. Breathing in that dust is terrible for your respiratory tract, and if it mixes with water on your skin, it actually creates a caustic lye that can burn you. Also, as we talked about earlier, never gamble with pathogen risks. Keep all carnivore waste and heavily diseased plants far away from any compost you plan to use for growing human food. Protect your health first and foremost. So how do you actually know your compost is safe and ready for your delicate plants? You can do this super easy nasturtium bioassay test right at home. Just fill a flat dish with some of your moist, finished compost and plant a few nasturtium seeds. Wait about 8 days for the true leaves to form. If those young leaves emerge yellow or brown, it indicates phytotoxicity, which basically means your compost is still too acidic, too salty, or just unfinished. The fix is super easy. Let the pile decompose for another 3 or 4 weeks and then test it again. And what if you suspect those persistent herbicides we just talked about have infiltrated your pile through some outside straw or manure? Try this side-by-side test. Plant some highly sensitive tomato or bean seeds in pots with your compost and do the exact same thing in control pots using clean, store-bought soil. Keep an eye on them for 3 to 4 weeks. If the seedlings in your compost start showing cupped leaves or twisted stems, but the control plants look totally fine, you've got confirmed herbicide contamination. It's a huge bummer, but this test reveals the invisible danger before it destroys your main garden crop. So, armed with this comprehensive rulebook, you are absolutely ready to start turning your trash into treasure. You've got the power to create a soil amendment that completely outperforms expensive synthetic fertilizers, or ruin a whole batch with a single glossy apple sticker. The choice is totally in your hands. So, what are you going to toss in your bin today?